cause of the treatment, the lack of knowledge of the physician, and maybe some indication not going to clinical approval yet. But since 2016, there are a lot of approved by FDA to use this innovation therapy for the patient. I think we should get ready to use this innovation therapy for the patient. And here at Payathai Nawamin, I like to confirm that we not set up the high cost for the patient. We set up the very, very reasonable cost because we aim to help the patient, and we would like patient to get improvement of the quality of life. So the cost I think that is very cost effectiveness for the patient. So I will start my lecture today. As you know that we have 4 speakers, 3 speakers will lecture, and we will do a workshop together. Let's just hear the concept that what is the neuromodulation. Actually, we need to inhibition of the maladaptive. Okay, for the brain, after brain lesion, there maladaptive of a reorganization of the brain. Okay, so we need to inhibit the maladaptive, and we need to facilitate for the good adaptive, for induce the brain plasticity in the good way. Okay. The level of evidence that I will talk today will come from only level 1 and level 2 evidence. The paper that I choose to explain today is only the RCT with the well design and have a control group as well. And because we would like to find the effectiveness of the new therapy, and we would like to find the safety as well. So that's why we need to look on the evidence based by systematic review only. For the first one is the mapping of the cortical of the motor representation. Okay, we can use this kind of machine to cortical mapping to see that where is there's still intact of the motor cortex, motor cortical spinal tract or not, or we can use the mapping for finding the hotspot for stimulation. Not only this kind of stimulation, we can use for the transcranial stimulation as well. We can use both. Okay, so for the first one is the 20 trial that included in this study. I think it's very nice. And we found that they found that several correlation between cortical reorganization and measurement of the hand motor for the hand motor cortex that represent the hand function. Okay, for the recovery. And the motor mapping we can use as a guidance for the brain stimulation technique, and it is the most effective way to do stimulation if you do the brain mapping first. In terms of recovery, I would like to use the stroke as the model. Okay, in terms of the recovery, if the patient have a mind impairment, yet as we know that the recovery will be very better than severe impairment, right? In mind impairment, normally we a lot of recommendation suggest to use the inhibition. Okay, inhibition of the non-affected brain, at a non-affected brain size, but in the severe degree, severe impairment, we need to do facilitate in the lesion site. So maybe we need to use high frequency for stimulate in the severe impairment. And whenever we use the high frequency, keep in mind that we need to be careful about the doses. I like to say that it's the dosage, the total of the parameter that we use is the dosage. Because even the transmagnetic stimulation is very safe. Nowadays it's recognized as a very safe therapy, but still have precision 2.5%, 2.2%, not high, not high, yes, not big, still that is not untouched therapy. This is safe around the world. It's considered that it's a safe therapy. But I would like that we treat the patient. So we need to know that the most serious effect, what will be the most serious one? The most serious one is the really serious because it's called seizure. Seizure 0.2%. Seizure 0.2%. So we need to screen the patient. I would like to say that if we have a carefully screen the patient, everything will be good for the patient. So what will screen? I will talk later on. But I will just mention now. The screening is just take the physical, take the history, take a physical examination, and do the MRI. I would like to recommend because need to screen all of the contraindications such as the hygroma, cystic, or even mass in the brain that will cause seizure. So we need to screen about that because sometimes it's difficult to rule out by only history taking or by only physical examination. So that is we need to do that for this machine. Okay, before starting this one. But for direct current stimulation, maybe some of you are familiar with that therapy. That is more safe because no seizure at all for the direct current stimulation. The low frequency, low amplify of the low intensity of the current. That is very safe. But the more effective of transmagnetic stimulation make better quality of life for some particular patient, especially for the patient who has severe impairment. We need to use this transmagnetic stimulation. Okay. For the second one is are we ready to use this for stroke patient or not? Okay, now, currently. So, in the literature said that we can use to moderate excitability of the lower muscle, of the lower muscle. It means that we can use for this systematic review said that can use transmagnetic stimulation for improve motor performance in stroke solve. Okay. For the third one, for the current evidence of the use of TMS in post-stroke neurorehabilitation, I have a positive outcome for stroke recovery if we use inhibition. If we just use the inhibition, because inhibition is more safe, but however, in some case we need to use facilitation as well. Okay, facilitate the lesion size or inhibit the non-lesion size. Okay, if we use the inhibition TMS for the non-lesion size, it proves that can improve the motor function. Okay, can improve aphasia, can improve dysarthria, oropharyngeal dysphagia, depression, and also perception cognitive deficit. That is I think it's very useful for the patient. And for the meta-analysis, also it is the same direction that have a optimistic, positive effect for the patient who have a stroke from meta-analysis. Okay, but because it is a meta-analysis, so in some meta-analysis they will conclude that need more sample size. Okay, but in a lot of countries now, even in Thailand, FDA also approved to use in stroke patients. In Germany, in America, in some region, in some city, in some university, a lot, I think quite a lot in US use for stroke patients as well. Okay, but some universities still use just for the clinical research. Okay, and this is for the systematic review in multiple sclerosis. Even it's not the high incidence in Thailand, but we still receive some patients. So I would like to conclude that for multiple sclerosis is also can be adjuvant to other treatment as well. We can do other rehabilitation treatment, even use the immunotherapy in multiple sclerosis. We can combine with immunotherapy as well. No any side effect for use this machine. Okay, and for the systematic review for the patient who gets stroke and have a swelling problem, dysphagia or attention deficit, also have a positive outcome in 38 article. So it's quite, for 21 will be aphasia, 8 will be dysphagia, 8 will be neglect, and 1 with visual extinction. So all of the systematic review found the positive effect in stroke patients who have all of these complications. And this is the critical review, also improved by RTMS as well. All of the systematic review I received from only 2016 till 2018. So all of these are very update. Okay. So and it will have all of them conclude the positive effect. And for this is for dysphagia management. Okay, also have a positive effect both TNS and TDCS. And however, in this paper it said that need to have more sample size to do. Okay, and this is the post-stroke dysphagia. Also recommend that TDCS and TNS and another, because there's another kind of stimulation as well, but today we will focus on this TNS. Okay, will help in patient with dysphagia. And this also systematic review and meta-analysis also have a positive effect on RTMS in dysphagia in stroke patient. So, and this is for stroke patient as well. This is for aphasia, for language deficit in stroke patient. Also have a positive effect of the RTMS. Okay. And for low frequency, it's interesting that this paper said that low frequency, if we stimulate in the unaffected hemisphere, will have a short-term effect. But if we need a long-term effect, or we need to have a more effective, we need to stimulate with a high frequency in the affected brain. This is so I will conclude after this, because yes. But on the systematic review, it's in the direction is in the same way that RTMS have a positive effect on motor, on dysphagia, on aphasia in post-stroke patients. And for the multiple sclerosis, okay, it's also helpful as I told already. For spinal cord injury, another neurorehab that we have a number of patients as well. Okay, this kind of treatment will help for the functional recovery. I think it's very useful for the patient because I also take care of the patient with spinal cord injury. I think it's quite young. It's at the onset happen in the young man or young woman that I think they always cause depression. And if we have any therapy to help them, I think it's I'm very impressed when I use this kind of therapy in patients with spinal cord injury because it can help them. Okay, I would like to say just this. And this is the systematic review to confirm that the patient who have a spinal cord injury after have a treatment with TMS, they get improved in motor function and in neuropathic pain as well. Okay, for Parkinson's disease, most of the paper focus on non-motor symptoms such as swelling, such as speech as well. Is the same way, and also the cognitive function. We in the literature review found that helpful for the patient with Parkinson's disease for improve the depressive symptom and cognitive function. Okay, and we also have the patient with movement disorder. Okay, as normally in the past I use botulinum toxin. Okay, but nowadays I combine with TMS as well. I think it's quite good for the patient who have a Parkinson's disease or the patient who have a Parkinson and plus dystonia or only dystonia is quite effective as well. And for the concept in Parkinson's disease is encouraged to stimulate in the primary motor cortex and cortical area. Okay. And for the stroke patient who have spasticity, also this is one of the nice paper. Injection of botulinum toxin plus do the RTMS plus rehabilitation therapy. Okay, and the conclusion said that improve a lot of improvement compared to only inject of the botulinum toxin. Okay, and this for spasticity, a nice review as well with the meta-analysis. Okay, it said that with the use of transcranial recurrent stimulation can improve. For this paper said that the significant improve in the case of brain stem and spinal cord injury, but for stroke patients need to be more sample size. Okay. And for meta-analysis in migraine is another interesting because we have a lot of patients who have like tension and from maybe from cervical spondylosis, maybe from myofascial pain, and some patients come to me and say that they feel like a migraine and they take a lot of medication and not improve. Okay, this is quite interesting because RTMS also helpful in the first attack of migraine as well, but for long-term effect still have a lot of research going on now. Okay, maybe next year we can gathering information from systematic review. Okay, for chronic pain, this is one of the challenges for the patient as well, because even the patient have no any neurological problem, but also decrease quality of life from chronic pain, cannot go to work in some patients, so we should help them to return to work as well. Okay, and for chronic pain, RTMS also have a lot of mechanism to improve nociceptive central sensitization in patients with chronic pain and can help for the long-term depression as well, because as we know, not only neuro-rehab patient but chronic pain patient also have depression. So this kind of therapy also help for the depression besides the decrease of pain. Okay, and this for chronic pain, and the literature review found that RTMS have potential utility in treatment of chronic pain and can use high frequency stimulation in the primary motor cortex for neuropathic pain, fibromyalgia, another one that I got patient, got referral from the doctor. Okay, this quite hard to treat because sometimes the oral medications such as pregabalin, we give the high dose already or combined therapy with other oral medications. Patients still have a lot of pain and very disabled as well. Okay, with this kind of therapy can help patients with fibromyalgia and complex regional pain syndrome. Okay, and for another indication that's quite interesting, because now today we're going to be the aging society, and this paper is do in meta-analysis in patients with in aging with dementia. Okay, and found that in dementia also help to improve cognitive function. Okay, and this for patients who have depression, schizophrenia, and Alzheimer's disease, how RTMS improve the cognitive function, also have a positive effect in all of this syndrome. Okay. And for the aging brain, cognitive function, as I told that now today we're going to the aging population. This RTMS or TDCS also have a potential to improve cognitive function in aging population. Okay, and for fibromyalgia, this is another one. Okay, RTMS and TDCS also help to improve the mood, the depressed mood, and also improve the pain as well. This is for fibromyalgia. Okay, also improve the fatigue, because fatigue is another one problem in fibromyalgia, and the patient mostly don't want to move because don't want to walk even, don't want to go anywhere else, don't want to go outside because a lot of pain and fatigue as well. Okay, so all of that are all updated evidence by systematic review. As I told that we would like to do the new therapy, so we need to, this is the all time because a lot of new innovation come to rehabilitation and any other specialty as well. I would like to deliver the message that if we would like to use any innovation treatment for the patient, we need to review the best evidence. What is the best evidence for treatment? The best evidence for treatment is systematic review. So all of my lecture today, I focus only on systematic review by the good RCT. The researcher who do systematic review, they include all of the articles that have a very good design, very good RCT, good inclusion and exclusion criteria, good methodology to include and publish as the systematic review. So that is, I think that is we can use that for our new therapy, any new therapy. Okay. So before I end of my lecture, I would like to conclude, but I still be here. the whole day. So we can have a discussion after another two experts. Okay. So normally when I do TMS from the patient, I always do consent. Okay. And mapping plasticity. So we need to find the M1. Okay. But firstly, decide first about it. You do peripheral or central, because nowadays also have peripheral. Maybe some of you interested in peripheral stimulation as well. But today we would like to focus on central first, because central is more difficult. Central is more difficult than peripheral. So today we'll teach the difficulty. So if you understand central, peripheral is easy. Okay. For peripheral, motor nerve, vexus, and sensory nerve, but cortical stimulation, for myself, this is just a protocol for myself that I conclude from the evidence base and from my practice as well. Okay, I will stimulate the ipsilateral M1, 100% DMT. 10, if I use 10, normally I like to use the first protocol, 10%, 40 ppt and 520 per cycle. And I TI around 10 to 18, okay, and around 10 cycles. Sometimes I use this, but it's going to be the high frequency, very high in some particular case that very severe. Okay, and for the cord stimulation we do in some case, only very few now, because I prefer to do in the cortical better, because I think that for the cortical we can go to the cortical spinal tract. Need not to, I think for the cord stimulation, but in some country they do cord stimulation. But after I practice for a while, I like to do cortical stimulation better, because cortical stimulation can stimulate and can go the effect you caused by cortical spinal tract and can help for the other symptoms of the patient as well, such as depression or mood or pain, anything that it may be some central sensitization to that area. That is just my personal experience. Okay. But however, if you would like to do cord stimulation, I think that this is the almost paper use like this. Okay. And this is we need to remember this anatomy. Okay. And during the workshop, you can see that how can we find anyone. Okay, and for the next expert, we will share about this as well. So this is just, I would like to tell you, insist again that need to do the proper procedure by take the history, physical examination, do the MRI, and to rule out any contraindication, because the risk of seizure is like this. And consent form explain to the patient. Consent form is, I think, the useful is that it gives me awareness. So I don't want just to say that it's like a protection. I would like to say that consent form is in the positive way, because it's made most the physician and the team awareness what will we do to the patient. Okay, that is important. I would like to deliver this keyword, that consent form, to know that, to explain the patient what will we do. So during we explain, we will keep in mind again that what will we do. So what is the most serious can happen to the patient, so we can be careful. And in most of the center in US, as I ever visit, or in Germany or in other country, they always have the drug for standby team for if do TMS. But if we do in the in the hospital, I think it's very safe, okay? Because we have everything. If the patient got seizure, we can help them, okay? It's not easy. We have a doctor and we have a nurse. We can handle this kind. And a lot of reports said that after seizure by RTMS, the brain function not destroyed. Just seizure because abnormal circuit during stimulation. So finally still safe, but still have seizure. But after seizure, no destroy of the brain. Okay, this is the nice table that for doing RTMS in healthy subject. So in healthy subject, we say that we can increase the frequency to 200. So right now, so why a lot of machine currently right now they produce the high, quite high, but as I told, quite high. If used in the patient, need to be careful. But if used in the healthy patient, such as in the healthy aging or in the normal people, within the careful situation, can use it will be helpful for the depressive mood, that is evidence level A already, and can improve the cognitive function, that is evidence level B, if we use RTMS. So I would like to take home message that evidence-based medicine is the heart. Okay, clinical practice is important. Patient selection and carefully evaluation, and no one for all. Not like the package or not like the whole everyone do the same thing. Not like that. We need to not individualize. Okay, and numerous studies confirm that RTMS have positive effect on the patient with many indications. Okay, and neuromodulation, we deal with the plasticity, and we use electromagnetic to change the biochemical and biological and neurological in the neural system. And some newspaper coming up say that also change the yin. That is quite interesting. Change the yin in the patient. So let's watch with your eye to see this new therapy. Okay. So I would like to give my best regard to all of the attendants today, that you give the new knowledge and can help your patient. Okay. We will give the next speaker.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Anna Suputida, for this lecture.
For the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to this great conference. And I want to talk about some basic things about RTMS. So please feel comfortable about these new techniques. It's easy to apply, so you can learn something in the workshop. So I briefly explain about the TMS technology. It's introduced since 1985. And it's a non-invasive method for brain stimulation. Also, peripheral nerve or muscle can be stimulated. And by using this one, you can measure cortical excitability, and if it is repeatedly applied, can expect some clinical effect. So there are two kinds of representative stimulation methodologies. One is a TMS. Another thing is a transcranial, so direct current stimulation, but it's not the scope of our today's talk. And if we use non-invasive brain stimulations to use a single pulse TMS, you can measure multi-evoked potential or some resting motor threshold or other parameters. So it can be used diagnostically. And based on this single pulse TMS, we can proceed to the repetitive TMS. So there's some patterns of TMS paradigm. That is a low frequency, usually inhibit the cortical area, and the high frequency above the 5 Hz frequency, usually excitatory. And then some pattern RTMS also can be used. That is continuous or intermittent cerebral stimulation. So for the mechanism, so if you use the coil, so it's a figure of 8 coil or butterfly coil. So into the coil, the usually high current is going into the coil, and then this high current induces magnetic field around the coil, and then in the cortical area, so electrical field and the electrical current is formulated. So if we stimulate the motor hotspot, we can see there is some twitching of muscles, or you can see the multi-evoked potential when we use the EMG machines. So compared to the transcranial direct stimulation, the TMS usually induces the electrical current flows parallel to the surface. So usually the direction of a coil can influence on the stimulation area or stimulation characteristics. So this is the typical demonstration of using a figure of 8 coil. This is the current of electrical current in the coil, and then finally the electrical field in the cortex is from the posterior to the anterior. So from the handle side to the cortical side. So if we really think about the neuroanatomy, there is 5 layers, 5 or 6 layers, and then 5 or 6 layers, and then in the layer 5, there is a pyramidal neuron that is directly connected to the corticospinal tract. So if we use the transcranial magnetic stimulation, it cannot go deep into the layer 5. So usually stimulated area is between layer 2 and 3. So interneuron is activated. And then subsequently the pyramidal neuron is activated, and you can see the MEP. So usually when we apply the TMS to the motor cortex, the direction is like this. It's 49 degrees from the substrate plane. By using this method, we can more stimulate the interneuronal area, and then the I waves from the interneuronal area can be listed more well. And then if we want to stimulate the pyramidal tract more directly, you can use this lateral to medial direction for the D waves for the corticospinal tract. Cortical pyramidal neuron stimulation. And then there's many types of coil. And then for the hand knot areas, so usually circular coil or figure of 8 coil is used. And then today's workshop we will use the figure of 8 coil. And then compared to the round coil, the figure of 8 coil, the penetration is not different. But you can focally stimulate the area. So as you can see in this figure, the figure of 8 coil can stimulate more focal area compared to the round coil. And then if we do the research, we need sham stimulation. So usual method is to tilt the coil to the 90 degrees. And as you can see in this graph, the electrical field intensity decreased according to the tilting, but after 90-degree tilting, the usual electrical field intensity is around 50% of real stimulation test. So you have to remember that this coil tilting method for the sham stimulation is not the exemplary method for the sham stimulation. So I'm sorry, there is some stimulation in the brain area. And then for the distance from the coil, if you cannot stimulate the deep area more than 6 centimeters from the coil. So in today's workshop, we will demonstrate some ITMS, repetitive TMS session, but the subjects will be stimulated with some distance from his scarf. So don't worry about that. And then for the single pulse TMS, the important thing is to measure, locate the hot spot and the motor threshold. So I will briefly introduce this method, and you can do it in the morning workshop session. So to find out the motor hotspot, you have to know about some 10-20 easy montage first. So if you think about the homunculus, it's located somewhat laterally from the vortex area, right? So it's anterior to the central surface, that is premotor cortex, that you can find out hand knob area. And then to everyone, is everyone familiar with the 10-20 easy system? So let's remember about 4 points to anatomical landmark for the 10-20 easy systems. One is lesion here, and then the inion in the occiput is just a sunken area. You can palpate it, and also bilateral pre-auricular point, that is tragus. Based on this landmark, you can make the patient wear the hand cap, hair cap, and then head cap, and then measure their 10-20 system. So usually the motor cortex is located on the C3 or C4. So this CZ as a vertex can be measured easily using 10-20 easy system. So based on this point, you can find out the possible area for the motor hotspot first. That is the starting point to stimulate. So I can show you some demonstration. So where the cap, so for the repetitive sessions, so the location should not be changing. So for the convenience, you can use the cap. And then marking some important areas from the median and inion, and then for the ear area, and then measure the distance, and the middle point will be the vertex from the median and inion middle point, and from bilateral pre-auricular area middle point, the cross-sectional area is the vertex. And then usually the motor hotspot is lateral from the vertex, so about 6 centimeters, or middle point from the T3 or T4 area point. And then to find out motor hotspot, we will start that point, C3 or C4, or 6 centimeters lateral to the vertical vertex area. And then usually the coil is handled like this, with a 45 degrees from the sagittal plane. And then we will stimulate, and they can see some hand muscle twitching, or if we use the EMG machine, you can measure the MEP amplitude or latency. Generally, to measure the motor hotspot, it's a traditional method. So you find out the literature, so usually this method is used. And then initial intensity is set up as a 30% of maximum output of any TMS devices. And if you cannot see the MEP at that point, you can increase the intensity from 5 to 10%. And if you can see the consecutive well-visualized MEP at some point, you can just stop that intensity and then you can consecutively stimulate the area. And then you can move the coil from the first area. You can see the valid MEP consecutively. You can move the coil to the anterior and posterior or right to left, and then find out if the MEP is decreased or increased compared to the initial point. And then if the amplitude is increased at the moved point, that is the new starting point. And then you can repeat this procedure, right? And then you can find out the motor hotspot. And to find out resting motor threshold, you record the 10 MEPs, and then if you can see the definition of resting motor threshold is the lowest intensity. You can find out 5 or more MEPs, significant MEPs during 10 trials. And the definition of significant MEPs is that MEP which have an amplitude more than 50 microvolt. Okay? And then you can decrease the intensity 1 or 2%, and then you can find out that point using the EMG machines. So if you do not have EMG machines, you can just see the visual twitching. Okay, I'll skip this one. And then for the paradigm of RTMS, there's some parameters. So you can see some parameters when you use the machines. And then one is the stimulation intensity. It's from 0 to 100% of maximum output of a TMS machine. And this next one is frequency. Based on, according to the frequency, the cortical modulation is determined. And then this is the train. So this is one train. And the duration of train is also parameters. And then this is the inter-train interval. So if we use the high frequency RTMS, more than 5 Hz, we have to use the inter-train interval. So this is the examples of RTMS paradigm which we will do in the afternoon workshop. This is a low frequency RTMS for 30 minutes, usually 1 Hz. I'm sorry. This is the high frequency stimulation with the 10 Hz. It can be 5, 6 seconds or 10 seconds, and the inter-train interval will be 50 or 60 seconds. It depends on the researchers. But anyway, it's just some kind of examples. And for the cerebral stimulation, usually this burst over 50 Hz burst, and then 3 pulses in the one burst is there. So the sound is like is a sound of burst. And then for the continuous cerebral stimulation, this is repeated by 5 Hz, and then it can inhibit the cortical area. And for the intermittent cerebral stimulation, there's a rest period there. And then Dr. Arira told some evidence for the RTMS use, and then this is evidence-based guideline. So for the pain, we do not apply the RTMS for the pain treatment. But as you can see, the high frequency RTMS to the M1 area may be effective, and then the better evidence is A, so it can be used for some instances. And for the in our hospital, we use it for the stroke recovery, and then for the motor recovery, usually the hotspot can be used as a target area, so it's easy. But for the non-motor areas, it's difficult to see some EMG or other motions. So you have to use a 1020 system if you do not have neuronavigation system. So for this purpose, you have to know the 1020 system well. So for the legal act, usual target area is P3 or P5, so posterior parietal cortex. It can be left side for the inhibitory protocol, for the right side, the excitatory protocol can be used. And for the aphasia, the target area is FC5 or CP5 for the left side. Usually for the high frequency protocols, FC5 is broadcast area and CP5 is nearly located in the Wernicke's area, so it's some kind of targeting. And for the dysphagia, the pharyngeal musculature is innervated by the both hemispheres. So for the stroke, usually high frequency, so excitatory stimulation protocol to the unaffected dysphagia cortex is commonly used. And then usual stimulation site is from the CZ, about 5 to 6 centimeter lateral and 3 centimeter anterior. So it's a usual target for the dysphagia when we use the penetrating EEG system. And this is the Neurosperm, it's the commercialized devices. But if you see this process, you can understand the step-by-step process for the RTMS use. So this is the first step to find out the motor hotspot. They just use the visual twitching. If they check the motor hotspot, they decrease the intensity and then check the threshold, resting motor threshold. And then because the target area is dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, is usually 5 centimeter anterior to the motor hotspot. So they measure the distance from the hotspot and then adjust the targeting area. So you can also target the depression if you can measure the motor hotspot. And then we have to consider some safety, and Dr. Arira already showed some slide. And then but some potential side effect is like this. Then for the seizure, usually if we apply high frequency RTMS, we have to be cautious. But for the low frequency, it's somewhat safe. And then there's other possible side effects, and you can see it. And then you have to check contraindication for TMS use. If the metal in the head, you cannot apply it, or some cardiac pacemaker or cochlear implant, you cannot use it. And then some pregnancy or history of seizure, you have to be cautious to use the RTMS. Then if you design the RTMS paradigm, for the safety, you can limit the total number of TMS trained or number of pulses, or you have to set the intertrain interval. So this is the maximum duration of protocol for each frequency. So for the 1 Hz low frequency RTMS, the maximum duration will be 30 minutes, and if the frequencies are higher and higher, the maximum duration for one train should be limited in some portion. So if we apply 10 Hz, the stimulation train should be below to the 5 sector for the safety. And if we want to apply the high frequency RTMS, you have to set the intertrain interval for your protocol. And then there's some checklists for the researchers. And then this is some examples, and then the handout will be sent to you by the PDF file. So this is kind of some influencing factors on the RTMS impact should be checked and screened. It should be documented. It's important. So this is my end of the lectures, and then thank you for your attention.
So we we want to determine the hotspot, which is most viable brain site, and determine the resting motor threshold. Okay, so to do that, we'll just set up the electrode in this subject. So we'll find here on the right brain, and it goes to the left hand. So this is ground electrode.
ที่เราติดกราวที่หลังมือก่อนเนาะ
Okay, so we sometimes use the APB or sometimes first dorsal into OCI muscle. So we will prefer
ปกติเราก็คลำมัสเซอร์ตรงนี้ค่ะแล้วก็วางไป
first dorsal into OCI muscle. So okay, so to be reproducible, so we usually use caps. Okay, we have swimming cap.
ได้เห็นบอกไว้นะ
Okay, for the first dorsal into OCI, where is the 1020 system, or which target is this? Okay, so the lecture C4, okay, in 1020 system. So this is CZ, and this is T4, okay? So in between there is a C4 here, so maybe around here, okay? Okay. So we'll start here. So you have to monitor the EMG signal. So by definition, the resting mode. Okay, so let's start at the hotspot first. Okay.
เราจะวัดจากขอบหูด้านนี้แล้วก็ข้ามมาที่ซีแซตรงกลางแล้วก็มาขอบหูอีกข้างหนึ่งแล้วก็แบ่ง 20% นะคะ
Okay, so
แบ่ง 20% โดย
the sensitivity here is 500 microvolt, and this is the sweep speed is 5 millimeters. We'll start with the stimulus output 50%, because just show the point where we are. Okay. Okay, so we'll just increase the
ถ้าเป็นรุ่นก่อนๆโทรศัพท์หรือว่านาฬิกาเนี่ยค่ะ
just sure where we are.
ชั้นแรกรุ่นนี้ไม่เป็นไรรุ่นนี้ไม่เป็นไร
มันกระตุ้นไม่ค่อยเป็นอะไรมากมันก็จะไม่พอเลย
Okay, here it is. Just navigate around
เชิญคอนโทรลฝั่งต่าง
Okay, let's go down.
ต้องทำแรงในการทำให้ล
So
ดล
can
ง
you make your finger open your eyes? So, yeah, so don't go asleep. So yeah. Just make 10 times. Okay, good. So I think it's very consistent. So the hot spot is beneath this area. Okay, so the round coil meets here, and this is the hot spot. But for our convenience, I'll just mark here like this. Okay. So can just reproducible on the same spot, okay? Okay, or so you can just put here, okay? Originally so moved maybe, but so you cannot make the same position like here. So I usually do this, okay? Not here, to be on the same spot, okay? So let's see what happens. Okay, so it would be better to position like this because so in the lecture so you said 45 degrees because the neuron orientation is like this, so you want to stimulate parallelly to the neuron orientation. Okay, just get on the same position here. Okay, stimulate. Okay, so now this is the hot spot. So what's the next procedure? To determine motor threshold. So we will determine resting motor threshold. There are two kinds of motor threshold. One is resting motor threshold and one is active motor threshold. For active motor threshold, patient should activate her finger, okay? But we don't usually apply active motor threshold because it is variable depending on the patient compliance or understanding. So we'll just make the subject relax and we'll measure the resting motor threshold. By definition, resting motor threshold is the intensity of this machine that generate 5 out of 10 MEPs in 50 microvolts. Okay, so we'll change parameters as 50 microvolts. Okay, so that means okay, so now it has been changed. Okay, so okay, so we'll go down. We'll start from 50%. Okay? So stimulate. No. 0. 0. 0. Okay, so we'll go up 55. Okay. No. Maybe. I think the change. Yeah. Okay. Change this. Okay. Start again. Here it is. Okay, so 70%. So let's go down. Okay, 1 out of 1. 2 out of 2. 3 out of 3. The baseline is not good because we are not using real EMG. Okay, 4 out of 4. So it's too much. So we'll go down 2%. Okay, let's start again. 0. 1 out of 2. 2 out of 3 and 4 out of 3 out of 4. So it's too much. So we are going down further, further down. Okay, so we'll find 5 responses out of 10. Okay, half responses. Okay. No. 1. Not sure. No. Okay. 2, 4. 2 to 4. 3 to 5. Maybe. No. 2 to 6. No. Okay, we have 4 out of 7, 5 out of 9. Okay, we have further? No. Okay, we have 6 out of 10. So it's too much. Okay, so we'll just assume that 65 might be the resting motor threshold. Do you understand? Okay, so in 65 there might be 5 responses. No responses in 5 traces. Okay, so that would be the resting motor threshold for this subject. Okay, so this is the dosimetry what will be used later in the afternoon. So if you want to stimulate with the 100% of resting motor threshold, you can use this intensity for this machine. Okay, so but if you want to use the 120% of resting motor threshold, what would be the stimulus output in this machine? Okay, just 65% by 1.2. Okay, so what is that? You have 10. Okay, let's calculate. 80%. Okay, so simple calculation. This would be the 120% of resting motor threshold. And if you want to stimulate with the 80% of resting motor threshold, what would be? It was 56 originally. 65. Okay, 65. 52. Okay. By 0.8. Okay, it's 80%. Okay. 52. Okay. And with this intensity, so you can deliver the repetitive TMS. Okay? Okay, so very simple, but actually in the real practice, this is the most time-consuming period. Okay? So theoretically, if the subject comes in your clinic tomorrow, you have to determine the resting motor threshold again. But usually for the easiness, we use the same output. Okay? Okay. So the resting motor threshold depends on many conditions. If he goes asleep, the motor threshold goes up, or he's on caffeine in the morning, the coffee, so he might be more excitable and his resting motor threshold might be down, or he is on medication such as antidepressant or serotonin will upregulate the cortical excitability, but other channel blockers or sedatives, for example, diazepam, will increase the resting motor threshold. And how about the stroke? Depends on the stage and phase of the stroke after stroke. Okay, so for a stroke patient, let's assume that this patient has left hemiplasia, and if there is no MEP response at the 100% output, so there is a chance that his corticospinal tract has been damaged too much. So in that case, we don't want to stimulate this subject because we have to some reservoir or preservation of the corticospinal tract to have some effect. Okay, so and sometimes the resting motor threshold is too high to be obtained in this machine. So we'd better use unaffected hemisphere approach. Okay. So that's important. Why we use the resting motor threshold? It depends on the patient's status. Okay, so it's not uniform. Okay. Okay. So who do the exercise?
มอเตอร์คอร์เท็กซ์ก่อนก็เรียกว่าฮอตสปอตพอหาฮอตสปอตเจอแล้วค่อยไปหามอเตอร์เทชโเป็น2 สเต็ปการหาฮอตสปอตเนี่ยคือปกติเวลาเรากระตุ้นเราก็จะกระตุ้นที่จุดที่เรียกว่ามอเตอร์คอร์เท็กซ์ที่ represent hand area เพราะนั้นเขาก็เลยเอาไอ้ตัวอิเล็กโตรดเนี่ยแปะตรงมือที่เห็นมือกระตุกตัวนั้นน่ะมันเป็นตัววัดสักไฟฟ้าที่เข้าไปในหน้าจอเพื่อที่เขาจะหาปริมาณกระแสไฟของเครื่องที่เหมาะสมในการกระตุ้นครั้งนั้นนะครับก่อนอื่นก็มาหาไอ้มอเตอร์ฮอตสปอตเนี่ยวิธีหาเนี่ยตรงนี้ใส่เป็นตำแหน่งที่ต้องรู้ก็คืออันหนึ่งก็คือกระดูกที่ตรงเขาเรียกนาเซียนที่อยู่ตรงนี้ครับกับอินเนียนก็คือตรงออกซิปุตที่มันโดนนะครับแล้วเราก็จะวัดจากตรงนี้สมมติตรงนี้เป็นนาเซียนอินเนียนก็ประมาณฝุ่นมันไม่ประมาณตรงนี้ก็แล้วกันนะครับแล้วก็จะแล้วก็มาร์กตรงอินเนียนไว้สมมติตรงนี้เป็นอินเนียนส่วนตรงนี้นาเซียนคือปกติมันจะไม่ปิดตาแบบนี้ปกติมันจะอย่างนี้แต่เอาเป็นว่าแบบสมมติเพื่อให้เห็นภาพก็คือนาเซียนอยู่ตรงนี้เอาเหรอเดี๋ยวเอาวัดหัวจริงเอาหัวนี้ก่อนแล้วก็เสร็จแล้วเราก็จะหาจุดที่จุดศูนย์กลางเรียกว่า CZ แล้วก็จะวัดจากไปตรงนี้ได้33 เซนเพราะนั้นครึ่งหนึ่งของ33 เซนคือ 50% เป็นจุด 4Z ก็คือเท่าไหร่ 16.5 เข้ามา 16.5 ก็อยู่ประมาณ x อีกอันนึงก็คือว่าสมมติว่าเราต้องการอันนี้คือจุดสีแซนก็คือ vertex ของตรงจุด1020 system ของ EEG นะครับสมมุติเราต้องการกระตุ้นมอเตอร์คอร์เทกซ์ฝั่งขวาเราก็ต้องมาดู response มือฝั่งซ้ายใช่ไหมนี่ถ้าจะกระตุ้นฝั่งขวาเนี่ยจุดที่เราจะวัดมาเนี่ยจะต้องลากจากตรงเนี้ยมาที่หน้าเทคัสก็คือหน้าสมมติตรงนี้เป็นเทคัสแล้วกันได้18คือโดยปกติจุดมอเตอร์เนี่ยมันจะอยู่ประมาณ 20% ของระยะทางอันนี้จาก 4Z 20% ของ 18 ก็คือ 3.6 ใช่ไหมครับก็จะมา 3.6 จาก 4Z แต่เป็นแนวที่มาถึงหน้าเทคัสนะครับนั้นจุดตรงนี้จะเป็นจุดเรียกว่า area ของมอเตอร์หรือว่า M1 ถ้าเป็น T1020 system ของ EG ถ้าฝั่งขวาก็จะเป็น C4 ถ้าฝั่งซ้ายเป็น C3 นะครับก็คือ C4 แต่ถ้าวันนี้ก็จะเป็น C3 แต่ตัวเลข C เลยพวกนี้มันเป็นระบบของ EG แต่ถ้าในเรื่องของ TMS เนี่ยเราจะเรียก M1 M1 ก็คือ motor cortex ที่ represent hand อันนี้เรามาลองของจริงใครมีคนอยากมาลองวัดดูไหมเอาบอกมาขอ
โชว์มัสโกเอ็นไม่
ลองมาวัดให้ลองวัดดูก่อนขอตัวขอวอลันเทียร์คนไหนเป็นคนวัดนับเป็นกล้าหาจุดสวยกว่าจุดนาเซียนนี่ก็ไม่ต้องไปมาร์กเขาเราก็เอาตัวเนี้ยเลข0ตรงเนี้ยวัดจากตรงที่ลอยมาไว้เลข0ไว้ที่นาเซียนมันจะล่ามากกว่าได้36เนาะ36ครึ่งหนึ่งก็คือ18เขามาได้18แล้วถ้าเราต้องการกระตุ้นมือขวาเอากระตุ้นมือซ้ายนะครับแล้วก็วัดมาจากตรงนี้มาที่หน้าติ่งเดี๋ยวเลื่อนมาแข็งแล้วก็วัดเอาไหมใช่แล้วสมมติเราต้องการกระตุ้นสมองฝั่งซ้ายให้มือขวาแอคทีฟวัดได้เท่าไหร่ที่เป็น20% ของ 20 ก็คือ4แล้วก็ลากจาก4เซนลงไป4เซนคือบางคนก็เอาที่5เซนไปเลยก็ได้หรืออันนี้แต่ว่าพอดีฝรั่งเนี่ยหัวบางคนเนาะแต่คนบางทีหัวเล็กอีกอันนึงที่ต้องรู้ก็คือว่าเราจะไม่กระตุ้นแนวนี้หรือแนวตั้งฉากหรือเส้นเราจะเอามาปรับประมาณให้มันได้45 องศากับตัว sagittal line เพราะว่ามันเป็นเรื่องของลักษณะของตัว นิวรอนมันจะอยู่ในแนวนี้พอดีคือถ้าเราไปกระตุ้นตั้งฉากกับแนวเส้นประสาทเนี่ยมันจะไม่ถูก activate ถ้ากระตุ้น parallel เนี่ยมันจะ activate มากที่สุดเพราะนั้นก็จะเอาตรงนี้เล็งไว้แล้วก็จะจับมือข้างหนึ่งจับตรงนี้ข้างหนึ่งจับโดยส่วนตัวสวิตช์เนี่ยเครื่องตัวมันเป็นตัวสวิตช์แต่ว่าเครื่องนี้จะเป็นตัวสวิตช์ที่เท้าอันนี้คือเสียงลองเอามือมานั่นคือ
แล้วตอนนี้ไปรู้สึก
เอาข้างที่ไม่มีนาฬิกาดีกว่าคือเครื่องนี้มันมีเป็นสนามแม่เหล็กเพราะนั้นถ้าเป็นอุปกรณ์อิเล็กทรอนิกส์เนี่ยมันจะถูกรบกวนอย่างมือถืออะไรเงี้ยหรือว่าถ้าเอาแบบบัตรเครดิตอะไรเงี้ยข้อมูลอาจจะลบได้เป็นแม่เหล็กมันจะไปทำให้ข้อมูลเพราะนั้นจุดนี้ต้องถามคนไข้ก่อนว่าในหัวนี่มีเหล็กอะไรบ้างคือมีเหล็กเช่นพวกคลิปแอนิลิซึมคลิปอย่างเงี้ยส่วนตัวผมจะไม่ทำเพราะว่ามันมีความอันตรายอาจจะทำให้ตัวคลิปมันขยับหรือว่ามันเป็นปั๊มแบบวีทีปั๊มที่มันเป็นอิเล็กทรอนิกส์ถ้าเป็นชั้นที่เป็นพลาสติกโอเคแต่ชั้นหลังๆมันจะมีแบบอิเล็กทรอนิกส์ด้วยอันนี้เราก็ห้ามทำหรือมีโคเคลียร์อิมแพลนต์คือฝังอิเล็กทรอนิกส์ในหูพวกคนมีปัญหาในหูนะครับส่วนหัวคือประมาณ30เซนจากจุดกระตุ้นนะเซแต่คาร์ดิแอคเพสเมเกอร์เนี่ยเกิน30เขาก็ไม่ให้กระตุ้นเพราะว่าอย่างที่เขาเขียนมีคอนทราอินดิเคชันแต่ว่าถ้าอุดฟันเนี่ยได้เพราะในที่พรีเซนต์มันจะมีคอนทราอินดิเคชันคือยกเว้นเหล็กในปากช่องปากครับแต่ถ้ามีคลิปอะไรอยู่ในหัวเนี่ยไม่ควรเพสเมเกอร์ส่วนใหญ่จะอยู่แถวนี้ไม่ควรกระตุ้นถึงเกิน30แต่ว่าเผื่อบังเอิญมันขยับไปขยับมาแล้วเอียงแล้วกระแสมันไปโดนเพราะว่าอันนี้มันเป็นเรื่องของเซฟตี้อันนี้เราก็ลองแล้วถ้าเราปกติแล้วเรามาพูดแบบนี้จะมีผลอะไรอ๋อไม่เป็นไรคือปกติอันเนี้ยมันตัว TMS ต้องบอกก่อนสมัยแรกๆที่ออกมาเนี่ยมันเพื่อเป็นการวินิจฉัยในคนปกติหรือคนผิดปกติที่เกี่ยวกับระบบการสมองนะครับคือมันสามารถดูเรื่องของกระแสประสาทจากตรงนี้มาถึงมือได้แล้วเราก็จะใช้จริงๆสมัยก่อนเขาจะใช้คอยกลมกระตุ้นตรงนี้ทีหนึ่งกระตุ้นตรงคอถ้ากระตุ้นตรงหัวเนี่ยก็จะเป็นกระแสประสาทตั้งแต่อินเตอร์นิวรอนออกมาถึงแอคทีเวตมือแต่ถ้ากระตุ้นที่คอเนี่ยมันจะกระตุ้นที่ไขสันหลังกับเนิร์ฟรูทเพราะนั้นแต่ว่าตรงคอมันจะมีกับคนไข้ที่ผ่าตัดคออ๋อถ้าผ่าตัดคอถ้าใส่เหล็กแล้วก็ไม่กระตุ้นอันนี้พูดถึงคนปกติหรือคนที่ยังไม่ได้ผ่าตัดเราต้องการวินิจฉัยดูลักษณะการกระแสประสาทในสมองคือเราก็กระตุ้นตรงนี้ทีนึงแล้วไปรับตรงมือกระตุ้นตรงคอทีไปรับตรงมือแล้วเอาตรงกระตุ้นตรงนี้ตั้งไปลบด้วยกระตุ้นตรงนี้มันก็จะเป็นกระแสประสาทจากสมองถึงไขสันหลังเพื่อวินิจฉัยโรคบางโรคสมัยก่อนๆช่วงหลังเนี่ยเขามาพบว่ามันมีผลต่อการปรับเคมีในสมองเราก็เลยเอามาใช้ในการรักษานั้นคนปกติกระตุ้นโอเคโดนกระตุ้นมาเยอะก็ในบางเคสถ้ากระตุ้นนานๆก็จะมีปวดหัวอะไรบ้างอะไรเงี้ยเพราะเบรนเซลล์มันถูกแอคทีเวตอาจจะต้องให้คนให้พักดื่มน้ำอะไรให้ไฮเดรชั่นดีๆหรือว่าถ้าใช้เวลานานการกระตุ้นในบางเคสจะมีปวดหัวมึนหัวนิดหน่อยแล้วคนที่ปวดหัวอยู่แล้วจริงๆเขาเอาไว้รักษาไมเกรนด้วยก็ไม่ค่อยมีปัญหาเป็นเพราะโอ้เป็นหลายครั้งครั้งเดียวไม่แล้วก็เดี๋ยวจะลองมาตัวอันนี้คือ intensity คือความแรง intensity นี่คือความแรงตอนนี้เราเซตไว้ที่35เราก็ลองแต่เนื่องจากเครื่องนี้มันไม่มีวัด EMG มีทำให้ไมเกรนความถี่ชัดความถี่ห่างแต่คราวนี้เนี่ยไมเกรนเปเปอร์ยังไม่ได้ออกมาเป็นข้อมูลที่เยอะมากครับก็เลยยังบอกไม่ได้ว่าจะเอามาใช้แทนยาถ้าใช้แทนยาน่าจะคุ้มกว่าน่าจะสนุกก็จะเรากระตุ้นมือกันตรงนี้ครับโอเคเนาะก็สังเกตดูมือฝั่งขวาก็มือยังต้องมีอะไรเพิ่มเป็นสัก40ก็ได้ครับ
50ส่วนใหญ่ของคนไทยดีประมาณ50
ประมาณ55
มีไหมเราสังเกตที่มือ
นิ้วปาก
ลูกปลา
ผมยังไม่เห็น
ไม่เห็นนะ
ตาไม่ค่อยดี
นิ้วน
างกระตุกไหมเดี๋ยวเขาต้องตกเอง
แต่มันไม่กระตุก
สั่น
แปลว่ามันไม่ขึ้นอยู่กับตื้นที่เข้าไปด้วยหรือว่า
อยู่ที่ตำแหน่ง
กระตุ้น
ที่ตำแหน่งกับความแรง
10ไปปะ
ได้ครับ
แรงมาก
แค่เราก็จะค่อยๆ
สรุปว่าถ้าทำอย่างนี้มันจะช่วยอะไรนะตอนนี้
ตอนนี้เรากำลังหาโดสก่อนหาโดสที่เราต้องการหาโดสเพราะว่าถ้าเราให้โดสมากแรงเกินไปแรงเกินไปเนี่ยมันจะ
ไม่มีเครื่อง EMG
ทำให้คนเรา
ก็คือการว่าทวิช
เป็นระยะ
กล้ามเนื้อกระดิกกระดาษ
เป็นการหาโดส
แล้วถ้าเกิดสมมติว่าเราเก่งเนี่ยไม่ต้องมานั่งสังเกตกระดิกไหมจะมาดูกัน
อันนี้ไม่ได้วินิจฉัยหลักนี่นะ
จะเป็นตัวเด็กตัว EMG มันไม่ได้ครับวันนี้ตัวนี้เราจะใช้คำว่า EMT portable อีกตัววันนี้ EMT portable เป็นการในมหาลัยเขายืมไปทำวิจัยเพราะว่าเรามีพวก EMT ให้อาจารย์ยืมใช้อะไร
เจอไหมคะ60แล้ว
ไม่ต้องกลัวนะ
อะไรครับ
แต่ละเครื่อง
ของผมจะอยู่ด้านข้างนิดนึงครับ
แล้วข้างนอก
ใช่ครับ
ตำแหน่งก็รู้ตำแหน่งแล้วนะลองหาบ่อยแล้วถูกที่ได้
ตั้งแต่เล่าหน่อยใช่ไหม
แต่ละคนก็ตำแหน่ง
นี่เหมือนกัน
ก็ความแรง
ความแรงหมายถึง
คนไหนแรงเยอะแรงน้อย
อยู่ที่สมองลักษณะของกะโหลกด้วยอย่างคนไข้อายุมากๆเนี่ยเบนาโทฟีเนี่ยตัวสมองเนี่ยมันจะอยู่ห่างจากกะโหลกเยอะนะกระแสไฟก็ต้องใช้แรงใช่แต่อันนี้คงอยู่ที่ลักษณะของให้ดูเป็นไอเดียให้กับคน
ถ้าเป็นข้อแนะนำในการใช้ถ้ากระตุ้นที่เป็นคนไข้คนหนึ่งเนี่ย
แต่หน้ากระตุก
ใช่ติ๊กใช่ครับซึ่งปกติเทสเบรนก็จะอยู่ประมาณ
ใช่ครับ
ประมาณสูงสุดที่เจอแต่ผมไม่เกิดปัญหานะครับ
ต้องทำ
สึกกระตุกนะครับ
แต่มันเลยสูงมากหรือว่าทำบ่อยมันก็เลยต้องสูง
ที่กระตุกใช่คนที่ปวดทิ้งจะอยู่ประมาณ24 ชั่วโมง
ของคุณเทียนแล้วจะจุดแต่
เราต้องค่อนข้างจะเข้าไปด้วยมันอาจจะไม่ทำให้สิ่งก็คือ
เราต้องข้างนี้
พิจารณามาช่วยเอาพูดนะครับส่วนที่เราติดของใจกันของปกติเนี่ยแค่ว่าวันนั้นพูดเป็นคำได้ให้อ่านคำอ่านได้แต่ว่าถ้าให้รูปภาพเขาดูยังไม่ได้
คือปกติถ้าเราใช้ตัวสายวัดมันอาจจะเห็นแล้วเพราะว่ามันจะดีเทคได้ค่อนข้างไวกว่าแต่ครั้นี้พอเราใช้ตัวสังเกตด้วยการกระตุกของนิ้วมันอาจจะเห็นได้ไม่ชัด
ประมาณ10 ครั้ง 2 อาทิตย์ทำกัน
ติดเครื่องเล่นบอลโบเธอได้ขา 10
รักษาเขาจนหายแล้วก็รักษากัน บางการเป็นบางการถ้าแบบแต่สองตัวที่เหมือนกันใช่ไหมคะ
ขึ้นมาหน้า
ไม่ทำมาสวยก็แล้วแต่ว่าจะไปสอนไม่ต้องไม่ต้อง
You can deliver your pulses in millisecond domain. Okay, so you can want the specific time to stimulate. Okay, so for example, 10 milliseconds before what event. Okay, or 20 milliseconds what event. Okay, it's very temporally specific. And depending on the frequency, it can be excitatory or inhibitory. And using after effect, so we provide patient behavioral training, occupational therapy or speech therapy. Okay, we know from the functional neuroimaging study that in, for example, stroke, the pattern of recovery has been changed, and some areas are more active than normal, and some areas are inhibited as to compare to normal. So we call maladaptive or facilitatory or adaptive. Okay, so if they are adaptive, it is good. So we want to promote that area. But if that area is maladaptive, that means that it's not good for the recovery. We have to inhibit that. Okay, so using that mechanism in mind, so we can assist the brain region during the relearning process for brief period by inhibiting competing regions or facilitating local activity to promote changes during practice. So this practice is important. So just RTMS alone can do nothing in terms of brain plasticity or motor learning or recovery. So you need to combine at any time behavioral therapy. Just RTMS is priming brain, okay? And with that priming, you have to make the patient use their brain, okay, to rewire or re-synapse the brain, okay? The brain connections. Okay, so if you are targeting M1, motor cortex, so you are not just stimulating the M1, but you are just stimulating the whole network that are engaged in that mechanism. For here, for M1 motor network, okay? So we call node. So there are many nodes. So for the motor recovery, so you can stimulate the M1 or supplemental motor area or premotor cortex or parietal association area. So that are all motor networks that are engaged in motor recovery. So you can just select most important node, okay? And this is one example. So we stimulate 5 Hz RTMS on the left M1 head knob area. So it activates the head knob area, but it also activates other motor networks such as supplemental motor area and opposite M1 or parietal or occipital or even the cerebellar cortex. Okay, that's the example. Okay, this is the online and offline effect of the RTMS. So what I just told you at the frequency effect is an offline effect, but online effect during the stimulation. So in the brain tissue, it shows an inhibitory phenomenon, okay, during the online effect, okay. With this online effect, we make the virtual region, okay. Then about 50 years ago, we know that this area is engaged in what function, okay. We know by the stroke region or brain region, but recently we can make a virtual region artificially with the RTMS. Okay, so if you just stimulate the Broca's area, so you cannot name the object well. Okay, so you got a virtual temporary Broca's aphasia. Okay, so this is online effect. But after the stimulation, depending on the frequency, we can facilitate or inhibit the cortical excitability. Okay, so this is again, so I told you that the application of RTMS for therapy is used by assist the brain region during the relearning process by inhibiting maladaptive regions or facilitating adaptive regions. Okay? And this is an example of clinical application of RTMS in stroke rehabilitation. There are a bunch of papers, but still off-label. So we know that for motor recovery, we can apply RTMS. For aphasia, we just apply inhibitory RTMS to the healthy Broca's homologous area. For the neglect, we apply inhibitory mode to the healthy parietal area. And dysphagia is another motor symptom of stroke, and we can apply for the cognitive improvement, for example, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and something like that, or we can use for the spasticity, pain, movement, psychiatric disorders, and epilepsy. Okay? But this is all experimental yet. But I heard that in Thailand we can apply this as a kind of off-label or out-of-pocket option. But in worldwide, in 2008, Neurostar TMS therapy system has won the first FDA approval for treatment of depression in patients that doesn't respond to drug therapy. It was the first formal approval from the American FDA. After that, only 3 indications are approved for applying RTMS, which are migraine and OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. That are all psychiatric disorders. And recently, this year, theta burst stimulation, which is more aggressive form of stimulation, got approval from FDA for depression. Okay? For Neurostar RTMS, they use the low frequency or high frequency, not the TBS. Okay? Okay, so you may be familiar with the interhemispheric inhibition theory in stroke or rivalry theory in stroke. Let's assume that a patient has a stroke here. So in normal brain, the interhemispheric inhibition from one brain to the other side is completely balanced. Okay? If this portion is disrupted, we can just very easily think that we want promote this region, okay, hoping to increase the cortical excitability. And another approach is to decrease the healthy side. In this concept, if patient has a lesion here, the interhemispheric inhibition to the healthy side is reduced as compared to the opposite direction because of this region. Okay, so to decrease this more relatively higher inhibition from healthy to unhealthy side, we want to inhibit the healthy side. Okay, so that's the theory of the rivalry theory. Okay, so with this concept, many protocols have been introduced for hand motor, swallowing, aphasia, neglect, and cerebral symptom. In our hospital, we usually apply inhibitory mode to the healthy hemisphere for hand motor recovery. So because mostly residents or fellows are applying RTMS, and sometimes if the patient has a large volume infarct, so we just apply the RTMS on the above the infarct volume. In that case, it's nonsensical. Okay, to avoid that, so we just want to have a more easily accessible tissue, so a healthy protocol. For the swallowing, so sometimes we use facilitatory or inhibitory mode. Facilitatory mode to the affected hemisphere or unhealthy, inhibitory mode to unhealthy, healthy hemisphere. But for the swallowing, the most plasticity occurs in the healthy brain. So there are mixed protocol with upregulating the healthy and affected hemisphere. But so you can use both strategies, okay? Because swallowing has little different mechanism as compared to hand, because they have bilateral projections and the frequency might be a little different. Okay? For aphasia, so you can use also the same approach. But usually in the classical literature, they just use the healthy inhibitory approach. Also the neglect is the same. And for cerebellar approach, there is a cerebral inhibition. Okay, so opposite cerebellum delivers a signal to the opposite hemisphere, usually inhibitory process. So to overcome this condition, so we want to inhibit cerebellum, okay, contraregional cerebellum, hoping to increase the affected cortical cerebral cortex, okay? So we call CCI, cerebello-cerebral inhibition, okay? Okay, so you have already experienced the safety guidelines. So we usually apply frequency of 5 to 10 Hz. For 1 Hz, there is no limitation, so you can use whatever stimulus intensity or threshold. But if you are applying 5 to 10 Hz, so you have to limit the time of stimulation for 10 seconds or 5 seconds. Okay, so if you are applying 5 Hz, you can just apply for 10 seconds. Then you have to wait for a while, so at least 50 seconds or more. Okay, and then you stimulate again 10 seconds, and you have to wait. So if you stimulate more than 20 seconds, so it will provoke seizure in some patients. Okay. For low frequency RTMS, there might be a seizure, but paradoxically in epilepsy, we apply RTMS to control epilepsy because One Health is an inhibitory mode that reduces the cortical excitability, and in some groups they apply low frequency RTMS for epilepsy control. Okay, so only for the high frequency you have to be careful about the seizure provoking. Okay, so this is the checklist for assessing the methodological quality of the study using TMS. Okay, so I just introduced this one because someone asked why the threshold fluctuates and the response fluctuates sometimes, and it works well and it doesn't pick up any signal at all. So it depends on many variables. So we are is a kind of not a machine, so we are on the biological system. So in biology, it is not consistent. Okay? We fluctuate and there are many variability. We are very variable. Okay? Depending on the participant factor, handedness of subject, and medication that patient is taking. For example, anticonvulsant, especially channel blockers, are very non-responsive to the RTMS. So if you just prescribe dextromethorphan before the RTMS doesn't work at all. Okay? Haloperidol is also makes the RTMS unresponsive to stimulation. And history of specific repetitive motor activity. Okay, so patients who are very active or anxious, so their threshold might be different depending on the sympathetic and parasympathetic tone. So in the literature, there is also studied on the caffeine effect on the TMS response. Okay, so there are so many variables. How about the methodological factors and coil type, size, and geometry? So this machine has different one and as compared to this one, and coil orientation and that are engaged in direction of induced current in brain, and coil location and stability. Sometimes we need to use neuronavigational system, hoping to targeting the same area with the same condition, and type of stimulator used, and stimulation intensity, and pulse shape, sometimes monophasic or biphasic, and determinant of optimal hotspot, and time between the MP trials, and days of testing. So usually, and in this sleepy condition after the lunch, so your brain activities goes down. Okay? And the method of determining threshold. So I just introduced the resting motor threshold and active threshold. Okay, so you have to all these factors in mind, and so figure out so how to best determine the motor threshold and hotspot. Okay, so let's go to the special considerations that are a little advanced to the basic one. Okay. First one is theta burst stimulation. So the theta burst stimulation was first discovered in the red hippocampus, and hippocampus is very important brain structure for memory. Okay, if you just insert the electrode in the hippocampus, you detect an electrical signal of droop. Okay, so with that sound, so we simulate very similarly with that are actually detected in the red hippocampus. So that was theta burst stimulation. Okay. For intermittent theta burst stimulation, there is three pulses together at 50 Hz, and with 5 pulse frequency, they stimulate for 2 seconds and wait for 8 seconds. And we did same thing during 109 seconds. So it increases the cortical excitability like high frequency RTMS. But this intermittent TBS is more strong, and it can induce the cortical excitable change more shorter time. Okay, so it's more efficient as compared to high frequency. So continuous theta burst stimulation is comparable to low frequency stimulation. So with 600 pulses, within 30 seconds, you can have the same effect with the low frequency RTMS. So that's why popular theta burst stimulation. If you don't have much time, so you can use theta burst stimulation rather than low frequency and high frequency. So within, for example, 1 minute, you have the same effect about 20 minutes of low frequency RTMS. Okay, there are other pattern stimulations such as pair pulse stimulation and quadrupulse stimulations, but that are not much popular as TBS. So you can use simple stimulation or theta burst stimulation. Okay, so we just covered the sham TMS. So for clinical research, clinical practice, you don't need this kind of sham TMS. But if you want to study a clinical trial, you need to do the control sham stimulation. The most optimal and desirable approach is using sham coil. So every producer have a whatever we do, they remain at the same. Okay? If patient has a total MC info, let's assume that we are approaching healthy side inhibitory RTMS for 100 sessions. What will be changing? Nothing is changing. So we have to find the appropriate patient. Okay. So at least they have potential to recover. Okay. And we can use the neuroimaging system. So we can just draw the DTI or functional neuroimaging, so whether they have activity in the brain or not. Okay. Okay, so this is our famous trial, clinical trial that was studied, investigated in the United States. They used epidural electrode that were implemented through a surgery, and they placed the electrode in the epidural space. Okay, they divided two groups. One group is cortical stimulation plus rehab therapy, and another group was rehab therapy alone. They just allocated 2-to-1 design. And at the very early stage, it looks very successful. But finally, there was no difference between two groups. They failed. And this North Star Neuroscience was the NASDAQ-listed company. And after failure of this clinical trial, the company has gone out and the technique has been sold to the Medtronics. Okay? It's a disaster. What happened? Okay. And phase 1, phase 2, it looks very positive. But phase 3, only 16% show the variable responses. That means that 84% were non-responders. So they just recruited non-responders and did the meaningless stimulation. Okay? But post-hoc subset analysis demonstrate that significant improvement in patients with verifiable NEP response. So I would like to emphasize here that RTMS to be effective, patient at least have to have NEP response, okay, and move in. Okay. I don't know whether you use Brunstrom stage or something like that. So I just use the RTMS above the 4 out of 6 Brunstrom stage. Okay. Okay, so we know that functional recovery after stroke is an essentially motor rerunning process with partially disrupted neural network, not totally disrupted neural network. Okay, that means that network should be preserved partially at least. Okay, and corticospinal output has to be adequate to allow functional recovery of motor function. Okay, that's the most important point. Okay, for aphasia, I don't know how to measure the disruption of the language network. For motor, we know, but language we don't know. For cognitive, for example, neglect or attention, we don't know how to measure the intentness or disruption of their network. Okay, that's the big issue. Okay, so another one is stimulation method. So this is our study. We want to stimulate this area to make the virtual region of aphasia. So red one is the original target. So the inferior frontal gyrus. But if you are using conventional TMS that uses a 10-20 system, so stimulation is all over the place because every subject has different configuration and different morphology of the skull and brain. For the Western people, the brain is very narrow, okay? So it's very difficult to measure the C3 or C4 and the exact spot, okay? So if you want to, if you use the neuronavigational system, you can be very know the exact sign because the subject brain is registered in the neuronavigational system, okay? And this is our lab. And we are using your navigational system all the time. Okay, so in the future, so we need to know which areas are active in the brain of the patient. Okay, for example, after stroke, the activity is different depending on the lesion size, cortical or subcortical, or even the time elapsed from the initial onset. The acute, subacute, chronic might be different. So we have to have an individual functional neuroimaging, and so we need to target the appropriate area that are individually tailored. Okay. For this, so we are applying functional near infrared spectroscopy, so FNIRS. So it measures, this machine measures the oxy and deoxyhemoglobin of the brain. So some say it's a poor man's functional MRI. Okay, so it's more convenient and more cheaper than the MRI. So I don't know, but in our lab, so functional MRI is not available because we have 8 MRI machines, but it runs every day, every night. So they don't allow for the research functional MRI. So they want to use it as a just clinical MRI. Okay. Okay, so this is an FNIRS. It detects the oxy and deoxyhemoglobin level and total hemoglobin level, and we can just convert to the as a brain map. Okay. So we can do many analysis with this. Okay, so the response is not the same, not always. Okay, so in Oriental people, we have many BDMS polymorphism. It's a single nucleotide polymorphism. In Western countries, 1/3, but in Oriental countries, more than 50% has a methionine carrier. Okay, so if patient has a methionine in the BDMS gene, their response might be different. Okay, so if patient has a malvar carrier, they have a typical response, but they have a methionine in the BDMF gene, their response is altered and no response sometimes. Okay, so I just tested this two subjects yesterday, and one was very responsive because he was here today, but one was very not evoking any MEP responses. So it's different between individuals. Okay? So I don't know whether you have methionine gene and BDNF or the other areas. And also there is a brain is an homeostatic plasticity. That means that it goes to be very static. So if you stimulate positive, it doesn't go double. It goes down, okay? Positive, not double. It goes to the same place, okay? So conversely, so you can just increase the activity by just hoping to decreasing first and applying the positive response. It goes up more than the first one. Okay, so it's a homeostatic plasticity. So with this effect, you can prime in many areas. Okay. Okay, so let's conclude the current status of repetitive TMS. Okay, so RTMS appears to be safe and promising intervention for brain neurorehabilitation, and it works by assisting the brain to strengthening existing connections, or to form a new connection by stimulating network node. Okay, it can be used as an adjuvant or additive therapy, but RTMS alone does not make brain form a new connection. Okay, it just primes the brain, and you should train the patient. Okay, and this is Donald Ham from Canada, a famous Canadian neurophysiologist. He said that neurons that fire together eventually wire together. That's a synaptic plasticity and motor relearning. Okay, and parameters showing value effect and duration and optimal patient and time selection and individualized localization depending on the pattern of reorganization is needed. Okay, so hoping to this approach, we are applying functional MRI or FNIRS and neuronavigational system. Okay, so maybe it was 2002 or 2003, so I was in the Denver, Colorado, and I rented a car and the contact okay, and another car. I saw when I returned my car to the airport, another one was TMS. Okay, so that's TMS. Okay, so other parts, so maybe you can just skip it. Because this machine has no function to measure that, but we can measure the input-output curve from just increasing 10% by that, and so we can just hold total output, or we can measure the cortical silence period, or we can do the mapping, and sometimes we can do the pair stimulation. You need another machine to measure the pair stimulation. Okay. Okay. So this is our lab. So Wanzan is here. So we'll see your video for your navigational system.
The overall goal of this procedure is to introduce a more precise and effective repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation method using a neuronavigational system targeting the Broca's area for patients with post-stroke aphasia.
This method can help answer key questions in the field of aphasia neurorehabilitation by showing that delivery of RTMS using a neuronavigational system is superior to using a 10-20 easy system. The main advantage of this technique is that RTMS can be delivered to the optimal target in the brain in order to maximize its effect.
Though this method can provide insight into the application of neuronavigational RTMS on broadcast area, it can also be applied to the other areas of the brain, such as M1 for motor weakness or posterior parietal cortex for neglect following stroke.
We first had the idea for this method when we recognized the errors of the conventional TMS targeting based on the 10-20 EEG system.
To determine the resting motor threshold, first place the active electrode on the left first dorsal interosseous, or FDI, muscle. Then, deliver 10 consecutive stimulations to the right M1 area at a 4 to 6 second interstimulus interval, checking the contraction of the left FDI muscle. Determine the subject's resting motor threshold by using the minimum TMS intensity at which a peak-to-peak motor-evoked potential, or MEP, amplitude greater than 50 microvolts is produced at least 5 out of 10 times. Next, obtain high-resolution T1 weighted magnetic resonance, or MR, anatomical images of the subject using an MR scanner or used with the neuronavigational system. To reconstruct skin structure, obtain the file of the subject's MR image in standard Digital Imaging and Communications in Medicine, or DICOM, format. Transfer the DICOM file to the computer in which the neuronavigation program is installed. Then, start the navigation program. Next, click Atlas Spaces to set the reference point to reconstruct each image. Find the patient's anterior commissure of the corpus callosum, just the midline of 2 hemispheres placed in front of the columns of the fornix. Mark the anterior commissure on the MR image. Likewise, find the patient's posterior commissure, the midline of the 2 hemispheres in the dorsal aspect of the upper end of the cerebral aqueduct. Mark the posterior commissure on the MR image. Next, click Reconstructions to make the skin structure. Include the whole skull with the nasal tip and both ears, and then display the skin morphology. Reconstruct the brain curvilinear after skin reconstruction. Configure the landmark in order to match the anatomical point between the patient and the reconstructed skin structure. First, mark the nasion on the computed skin structure, then mark the nasal tip and each tragus on the skin structure. Following this, put the head strap with the subjective tracker on the participant's head. Ensure that the navigational camera detects and displays all of the tracking system of the subject, chair, and coil before proceeding. Calibrate the coil tracker with the calibration block of the navigational seating system before every neuronavigational TMS stimulation. To do this, click TMS Coil Calibration. At the second session, select the coil name used the first time and recalibrate. Finally, place the TMS coil horizontally on the standard point posterior of the calibration block. Check that the camera is detecting both the calibration block and coil tracker. Then, begin calibration countdown and hold the coil still during the 5-second countdown. To begin, identify the anatomical inferior frontal gyrus, or IFG, based on the surface of the normalized brain. Register the IFG as the TMS target. Mark the IFG on the window displaying the brain curvilinear. Save the point as trajectory. Then, register landmarks with the subject's scalp and create a new session. Next, click Registration to match the reconstructed brain curvilinear with the subject. Use the previously registered landmark to match the anatomical point with the real anatomical structure. Make sure the camera identifies both the pointer and the subject tracker, displayed in green color. Point to the subject's nasion, then to the subject's nasal tip, and sample it. Repeat until all 4 landmarks are matched. Check the screen to ensure the coil is on the desired target and is maintained throughout the TMS procedure. Ensure that the screen displays the subject's brain surface, intended target, and the coil, as well as the error range as the coil moves away from the target shown by the bullseye. Use the screen as a reference to adjust the coil on the target as it is moved away. Then, perform TMS over the registered target. Ensure the camera identifies both the subject tracker and coil tracker. Finally, make sure that the screen displays the relative distance and angle of the TMS coil from the registered target, the IFG. Note, if the coil moves away from the target, the distance is marked in red, whereas it is marked in green when the coil is within the intended target range. Obtain the angle between the coil and the target as a bullseye as much as possible. This protocol demonstrates that navigational TMS produces a higher accuracy for targeting the intended brain area than conventional TMS. By eliciting a greater degree of virtual aphasia in healthy subjects during the picture naming task, here, navigational TMS induced a significant delay in reaction time compared with baseline, and a greater consistency of localization of stimulation with the target. Furthermore, the distance from the actual stimulation site relative to the target is closer with the navigational TMS than conventional TMS. Thus, the error range is narrower for navigational TMS compared to conventional TMS.
After watching this video, you should have a good understanding of how to perform neuronavigation guided RTMS to the specific target areas of the brain.
Once mastered, this technique can be performed within 30 minutes if it is done properly. While attempting this procedure, it's important to know exactly where you want to stimulate and to find the spot on the brain image in order to set it as the target. After its development, this technique paved the way for the researchers in the field of neuromodulation by exploring benefits of neuron navigation guided RTMS for treatment of a variety of neurological symptoms following stroke in post-stroke neurorehabilitation.
Following this procedure, neuronavigational RTMS on other areas of the brain, such as for motor weakness or neglect symptoms of stroke, can be performed. Don't forget that working with TMS can be contraindicated in some cases, and precautions should always be taken while performing this procedure to avoid instances of headache, hearing loss, and even seizures.
You can browse this video at the journal visual experiments. It's on the website. Okay, so if you have prescriptions, you can review the process, but it's very specific. It might be different depending on the neuronavigation system. So we use a brain sign because it may not apply for other neuronavigational machines. So it's just example how the neuronavigational systems are effective in selecting the specific region. Okay, so that would be the last presentation of my lecture. Okay, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Professor Namchungpa, for lecture today. And now let's.
The resting motor threshold. So, does anyone want to do more, or you can just go to the repetitive stimulation session?
อาจารย์จะให้เริ่มใหม่ไหมคะหรือว่าไม่ต้อง
You continue to do RTS.
Yes.
So, if we suppose that you already know the location of a hospital, so she will wear the header cap there.
Okay.
Then maybe this area will be the motor hospital.
โอเค เราไม่ต้องหาใหม่นะคะพี่เป้าเราทำเลยเนาะนะโอเคไหม experience
Yes, and we assume that she has the right hemiplasia.
โอเค
And then she has the intact cortical spinal tract. And then maybe stimulate this intact hemisphere with a low frequency. And what is your protocol? So what is your protocol? So frequency and intensity.
The lowest for fascias, so in between 1 Hz to the right local homolog.
So for the motor recovery, so your frequency is
For the motor recovery,
okay,
for the motor,
she has a right hemiplasia, and this is her healthy hemisphere, and this is M1, and then we have to set the protocol. And then first, what is your frequency?
the frequency. For the motor recovery,
Yeah, motor
I use 10 Hz.
Yeah, this is the
10 Hz to the if you use he has the right hemiparesis, so we have the 10 Hz to the left hemisphere, or maybe 1 Hz to the right hemisphere.
right hemisphere. So yes, okay. So can you set up the protocol?
โอเคพูดเป็นภาษาไทยบ้างก็ได้นะคะเขาจะแปลวิธีไม่เขาแค่ถามอาจารย์ว่าจะเริ่มตรงไหนไม่ให้อาจารย์เป็นคนถามเลยแต่ว่าเราจะไม่เริ่มเหมือนเมื่อเช้านี้หนูมาทำเมื่อเช้าใช่ไหมอันนี้เป็นแบบพี่ดาวมาไหมคะอธิบายอ๋อนี่ไงอธิบายให้พี่เป้าก็เดี๋ยวเป็นนิวพี่เป้าเขาจะให้อาจารย์ลองปรับเราไม่ปรับเพราะเราไม่ใช่หมอ
It's maybe 45 degrees. Then I'm on here. Yeah, strong. You stop? No, you by yourself. Yeah. So after 20 minutes, session will be closed. During the stimulation, you can sometimes see the twitch of the hand muscles.
Biết bao phảiต้องbớt volume.
No effect for your cortex, don't worry about that. No effect, don't worry. Okay, so let's and then you told me that you will apply the high frequency ITMS to the affected hemisphere, right?
Yes.
So in that case, you can position this coil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Left side.
So just suppose the M1
Just
is
suppose in one is here.
yeah, and then
No, no,
okay.
it's not fixed.
ยิ้มหน่อยยิ้มเพราะว่ารูปนี้จะเวอร์หวาน
Let's go to the option menu.
It's just explain to the others.
Yeah. You're
Which I want to, which current I want to use.
We use the RTMS.
Which frequency?
So I want to use the 10 Hertz
Okay.
for the facilitation.
And how about the intensity? In terms of
Intensity
motor threshold?
90% to 100% of the motor threshold. If I per head at 60, I need to use the
54%. Okay. 60 is our motor threshold, so you will deliver 90% of resting motor threshold. It goes 54%.
So I use about 4 seconds for 40 pulse. 10 hertz. And then I use and then waiting time 60 seconds. Sorry.
And I think it's too harsh for the subject. I think you need to rest more than 3 times. Yeah, how about 40 seconds?
Yes, with a lot to nearly 3,000.
Okay. So he designed to stimulate of the 90% of resting motor threshold with 10 Hz. It will deliver for 4 seconds and wait for 40 seconds, and total 1,000 pulses will be delivered. Okay, so 4 seconds, wait 40 seconds. Okay, so let's see what will happen. So we'll continue 26 times. Okay.
Run session.
เดี๋ยวจะกระตุ้นแล้วนะครับ Okay, go. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we'll wait 40 seconds. Okay. 34, 33, 30. 20. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now the 40 second rest. So we'll repeat this 26 times. Okay?
And so it's just so time consuming, so in that case you will find the theta stimulation. So in that case you have the excitatory control by this side. So what is your choice for the theta stimulation? Yeah,
The stimulation on the left side is intermittent theta burst stimulation. ไม่รู้ว่า theta burst จะเป็นยังไง
Very confusing to set up theta burst but still.
ATB or CTBS?
intermittent, as intermittent. Oh no. So the previously saved our options or in your own option.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, the first frequency is 5 minutes. This goes every 2 seconds, so it's 5 minutes frequency. Okay? And power with 8 usually 8 it doesn't tolerate the frequency goes down. The frequency should be
Safety. It depends on the coin or sensitive for the safety? Yes, it is depend. If you use more power, is limit frequency.
number first.
So it's total 600. So cycle time. First finish.
First, there are 3 persons. Okay, number first is 20. Okay, this goes 20. Okay, cycle time every 20 seconds. Okay, that means 5:20 means 5 volts means 5. 2 volts. Okay, so it should be done. Very short time. Okay. Let's wait. How long? Okay. We have done 1/3.
Because of cooling system?
I think you can
First is
It's not
ผมเริ่มขาวแล้วรู้สึกอะไรเลยผมเริ่มขาวแล้ว
Usually for the MCA part, give more put down and then
25
in the
second
case,
rest.
did he show the MEP there?
Yes.
And then you
Yes.
measure the MEP and then target the M1 area.
Yes. Only one.
Using motor hotspot.
Yes.
Local and management.
Yes. Only motor hotspot.
It's not usual, so it's a new finding.
Well, no.
You have to prove it is effective.
ว่าอันเนี้ยไม่ได้ลงแล้วท่านมองว่าคือเราทั้งกระตุ้นเซ็นทรัลทั้งปริคอลเป็นแม่ที่มันจะเหมือนมันเซนซิไทส์เหมือนกันดีเซนซิไทส์เหมือนกันในหลักการที่อาจารย์เคยเลคเชอร์ดีเซนซิไทเซชันคือเราใช้เข็มใช้ช็อคเวฟแล้วก็เนี่ยใช้แม่เหล็กได้อันนี้ลงกำลังดีรู้สึกซอฟต์ดีที่อาจารย์ลองเลยแต่มันนิ่มดีอยากลองก็ได้นะคะมีใครอยากลองเป็น peripheral stimulation
วงกลม
อาจารย์ถ้าตรงจุด M1 ที่ได้ตรงส่วนไหนของร่างกายบ้างคะ
M1 มันก็ M1 เนี่ยเราจะใช้ในโปรโตคอลพวกสโตรกกับเรื่องเพน
ออฟฟิศซินโดรมได้หมดเลยค่ะออฟฟิศซินโดรม
ปวดไหล่มากแต่ว่า2 นาทีวันละไม่อยากออก
เพราะบาไหลได้หมด
สาไปร่วมด้วยแต่รู้สึกเหมือนกันนะคะมันรู้สึกมันตื้อๆโอ้มัน
ตุ้นเพริเฟอรัลเนี่ยสบายไหม
มันตื้อๆอาจ
ใค
จะ
รที่เมื่อยหลังอยู่เนี่ยมาทางเนี้ยสบายนะเมื่อกี้เพียงกระตุ้นแค่เดียวขัดนิดเดียวรู้สึกโล่งๆเลย
คือถ้าคนที่ผอมอาจจะต้องลดไฟ
ไม่เกิน10
ยังถึงนี้เลยนะ
ดีขึ้นคุยกันมาก็ทานก็คุยให้คนนะครับบางคนสุดท้ายก็
พี่จะคือจะนู้นกระตุ้นนี้ก็กระตุ้นไปหรอก
มีผล
เคยอีกยี่ห้อหนึ่งเคยนี่เลยเราจดจากค้าไม่ได้ถูกตัวก็ไม่เคยลองก็ดีอยู่นะคือเคยทำที่มันเป็นอัลตราซาวด์เราจะรู้สึกมันไม่ร้อนมากเหมือนโดน
ถ้าเราไม่ลองแล้วก็ไม่มีการทายแล้วมันก็สบายไม่ต้องเสียค่า
ปวดทำแล้วก็สบาย
โอเค
เราต้องเปิด
เรื่องเดต้าเบิร์สเนี่ยมันจะเป็นการกระตุ้นอีกแบบนึงคือใช้ความถี่ที่สูงหน่อย50 เฮิร์ตซ์แต่50 เฮิร์ตซ์เนี่ยอย่างไฟบ้านเราใน60 เฮิร์ตซ์ถ้าไฟบ้านแถวอเมริกาใน50 เฮิร์ตซ์เพราะว่าคลื่นที่50 เฮิร์ตซ์มันไปคอร์ดิเลตกับคลื่นสมองในอะไรบางคลื่นมันก็จะไปกลายเป็นไปกระตุ้นหรือไปลดไปอินฮิบิตอันนี้คือเดต้าเบิร์สเสียงก็จะดูน่ากลัว
แรง
มันจะคือ50 เฮิร์ตซ์มาเป็นปึ๊ดปึ๊ดปึ๊ดปึ๊ดอย่างเงี้ยครับนี่เขาเรียก Theta Burst เป็น Intermittent Theta Burst Intermittent Theta Burst เนี่ย
เจ็บไหมไม่เจ็บนะ
อันนี้ค่ะช่วยในรูปดูนะ
มันคล้ายๆกับ10 เฮิร์ตซ์กับ1 เฮิร์ตซ์ตะกี้เนี่ย Intermittent Theta Burst
ใช้เวลานิดนึง
เป็น Inhibit มันคล้ายๆกับ1 เฮิร์ตซ์ของ1 เฮิร์ตซ์แบบ conventional แต่ว่าถ้า Continuous Theta Burst Continuous Theta Burst เนี่ยมันจะคล้ายๆ10 เฮิร์ตซ์แต่ว่ามันใช้เวลาสั้นกว่าคือปกติแล้วเคสหนึ่งถ้ากระตุ้น conventional เนี่ยถ้า1 เฮิร์ตซ์เนี่ยใช้เวลาประมาณ20 นาทีถ้าเป็น10 เฮิร์ตซ์ใช้เวลาประมาณ37 นาทีแต่ว่าพอมาเป็น Theta Burst เนี่ยเวลามันจะช็อตลงมาเหลือสัก5 นาทีเสร็จแต่ถามว่าคนไข้อยากลองไม่ค่อยชอบคนไข้ไม่ค่อยชอบเพราะว่าเสียตังค์แล้วเนี่ยอันนี้มาแล้วแต่ว่าผมไม่ได้จ่อนะแต่รู้สึกว่ารู้สึกเนี่ย
รู้สึกไหมคะเจ็บไหมแต่ไม่ได้ตอนนี้อะค่ะ
อ๋อมันจะพัก รู้สึก
กระตุ้นเด็ก
แต่มันไม่ค่อยสบายอ่ะมันเหมือนแบบมันจุดเหมือนดึงเหมือนมันประมาณนี้
เขาเกิด
แต่คือปกติถ้าเป็นพวกนี้เราก็หา M1 ก่อนเนาะอันนี้ผมกะเอาประมาณ
ว่ามันเป็นไงกระตุ้น
เนี้ยครับประมาณไม่เจ็บไม่เสียงมันจะดูน่ากลัวแต่ละ
is more precise we can use for M1, okay? M1 stimulation. And if we we have some demonstration here, but beyond the workshop today, because today we like to do only because but just show you that idea of peripheral stimulation as well. That peripheral stimulation is more useful for chronic pain from musculoskeletal problem, not from neurological problem. But for fibromyalgia, the syndrome is complex because it's consistent of both musculoskeletal and neurobiology. So it's have like a peripheral sensitization and upregulate the central sensitization. So we a lot of patients we use only peripheral sensitization is not work. Okay, because peripheral is in case that mixed together between fibromyalgia and myofascial pain, it works for peripheral sensitization, such as do the needling or do the shock wave or any kind of therapy such as ultrasounds or even massage, also stimulate desensitization for musculoskeletal. But in fibromyalgia, patients also have a central sensitization. That's why in the clinical study have proved that arting is also helpful in fibromyalgia. Okay, but in the case of musculoskeletal, such as myofascial pain, that's quite common. We see patients with myofascial pain almost every day, right? Here a lot. Okay. And we have a lot of pain patients here. So, as you see that with the needling also effective. But in case that we would like to get rid of pain very fast, very quick. Okay. Because patient need to go back to country or maybe to try to work or to do. We can use this stimulation as well. Besides shock wave. Shock wave is very effective, and this one is for peripheral stimulation. Okay, so now is the day for the machine. We have only one machine, but we can use for plenty of the indication. We can use for central, for neurostimulation, for recovery of the stroke, for recovery for the aphasia. I also impressed about aphasia. So, okay, but that one we need to use the precise one. We need to find the N1, right? That Professor Namjoon will teach, and the team as well. That technique is very classic. Okay, I'm telling you, very classic. That we need to find the N1. And now today, the advanced technique. Professor Namjoon talked about earlier about the navigator. That is very advanced. Okay, and the useful is very precise, because if you attend the workshop, you see that there are many factors to interfere when we stimulate, such as if we draw my hand a little bit or we move my hand a little bit. The stimulation site will change from N1 to another area, right? So the effectiveness may be lost, such as maybe lost 20 or 30% during our stimulation. But with navigator, it's very precise. So I like the precise one. Let's see that we will do that later next year. Okay, beginning of next year. And okay, so now as I told, I like to conclude that we have two common, but also have like the parabola, but I think no need. I think because sometimes in the practical use, usually figure of 8 and circular one is okay. Now, because in some parabola, sometimes the patient will feel like dizziness. Let me see that for the new machine, they have been parabola maybe, and maybe because of a lot of problems with that core. So this version here, this is the newest one. The newest version. Okay. And anything else? Anyone would like to say something you like to add? Yes, because they teach a lot today, and okay, anyone would like to share anything you would like to ask? However, we see each other oftenly if you have any questions. For the children, because Deputy Director, Dr. Thai, she is specialized in pediatrics. For the children, okay, they also have a systematic review in cerebral palsy. Okay, can use for cerebral palsy. For learning ability, still on process of research. To see that maybe next year for learning ability maybe have a consensus that how about RTMS. Okay, but for TDCF can use for children with the disability, but need to train with another thing as well based on recommendation. But for cerebral palsy, very effective. We have the patient with cerebral palsy with spasticity or with abnormal movement. Okay, we can use the RTMS. Very popular. Very popular education now. The worldwide is aging cognitive function. Also can use with this machine as well. And can use for the TDCS. TDCS can use for cognitive function. And RTMS also have a lot of application. And systematic review as this morning as in the slide. But very important, we need to train the patient after stimulation. Every patient, not just stimulate, but need to, it is the adjunctive therapy. It is the therapy for facilitate the recovery and the function, for facilitate the function. So we need to train after. And the effect of stimulation still have effect 30 minutes after stimulation. So if we after stimulate and do the PT, OT, physical therapies and occupational therapies will be very helpful for the patient, not only stimulate, because some physicians think that only stimulate enough, but actually need to do training as well, do rehabilitation program of PT, OT, and speech therapy, stimulate for aphasia. Very important. And I have a very good experience in stroke with aphasia after stimulate and training about the speech. And upper hand as well with stroke recovery after training, instead to do the hand therapy, hand training, patient get better very fast. And for peripheral stimulation, not only this machine as well, need to do stretching after that. After stimulate, do stretching and strengthening exercise. And can combine with another therapy. No any adverse effect.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Professor Dr. Arya, for conclusion and share experience and knowledge. Okay. If no one for any question, okay. If no question, I would like to say thank you, distinguished speaker for lecture and demonstration today. And I say thank you for participation and attention. I hope that the conference today have offered knowledge, insight, and information which can be applied into practical use. Thank you very much.